Hello again, this is News Today. Now let's get into, I beg your pardon, let's get into our first story. Executive Director for the Alliance for Development says Ghana's inability to sustain her development is because over the years, Ghana has not handled sanitation issues properly. According to Lord Ado, when governments tackle sanitation crisis properly, Ghana will save the amount of money spent on managing the health sector in developing the country.
It is said that for a country to develop and further sustain its development, it needs to take care of the little things that matter as far as society is concerned. Sanitation is seen as one of such things. A healthy mind, they say, lives in a healthy body, and healthy minds will aid in the implementation of the policies that governments want to put in place to ensure the development of the country. Speaking on clean communities, Lord Ado said when governments tackle the sanitation crisis properly, Ghana will save the amount of money spent on managing the health sector to help develop the country.
When we are talking about sustainable development, that is where the whole world we are now going, whereby we want to look at how we can use resources and develop, whilst we ensure that future generations also have also some of their resources to also develop and also do all the necessary things that they want to do. If you look at it, we have like 4 or 3 pillars, whereby we look at environmental sustainability, we look at economic development, we look at good governance, and we also look at social inclusion. If you look at environmental sustainability, which has to do with sanitation and all those issues, it has the potential of even derailing any effort that we make in any of these areas. Because as I said earlier, this situation that we are having is also about leadership, and for that matter, good governance also coming, rule of law. We set rules, we set laws that this is the way we are going to dispose of our waste, but people don't do it. Yeah. So it's also a factor, and if we don't manage our waste properly, it can derail any effort, any gains that we make in all these other areas of our development. The World Health Organization, we estimate that we lose about 10% of our GDP due to poor sanitation. Open defecation causes about 160 million Ghana cedis. So all these things are the real facts on the ground. Sanitation, we don't manage it well. It has the potential to derail any gains that we make in any aspect of our development, when especially sustainability is concerned.
President John Mahama this year said government is ready to revive the country's defunct railway system, commencing with the eastern and western corridor lines. The Ghana Railway Network occupies the total rail route length and rail track length of 947 kilometers and 1,300 kilometers, comprising national rail lines that do not go outside of Ghana and the Ghana national border. Ghana Railway Network is limited to South Ghana and within the Greater Accra region, Central, Western and Eastern regions, as well as the Ashanti region. There are plans underway to revamp the operations of the rail network, and we'll be finding out what those plans are. Right, I have here with me Chief Executive for the Ghana Railways Development Authority, Alhaji Sadiq Alidu. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
What is the state of the country's railway system?
Well, like you said earlier on, there isn't that much to talk about. We're just trying to revamp the existing network that has seen a downward trend over the years. So basically our main concern now is to rebuild the existing lines, and in the future extend them to our borders with our neighboring countries.
How well have we done in revamping? Because I recall that we started revamping sometime 2010. It's about exactly 4 years, June 2010, we heard of revamping the rail sector. How well have we done that?
Well, partly we've done well, although it isn't clearly visible to everybody. In 2010, we were able to extend the rail network from Tema to Accra, and we continued that rail line from the Tema Harbour to Community 1 within Tema. So invariably now we have a rail network or rail system that takes people from the inner Accra city to Tema. To Tema.
Let's talk about our rail system and what they look like now. So between 2010 and now, we only had an extension of Tema to Accra. That's very little work done.
Yes, basically we in the short to medium term, we just want to rebuild the existing network. The existing network that used to be flourishing, like you mentioned, in terms of the distances. Today, we're not able to even run the whole course of the distances. On the Western Line, we have services now from Takoradi Port to Nsuta Manganese Mine, which is ongoing, is operational. We again have a suburban network or rail system running between Accra and Nsawam. And then we've added Accra to Tema. So gradually we are rebuilding the system, although we still have a lot to do.
What would be that lot we have to do?
A lot in terms of distances. We need to get from Takoradi to Kumasi, rebuilt. We need to get Dunkwa to Awaso, rebuilt. We need to get Accra from Tema through Accra to Kumasi, rebuilt. We need to get Kotoku to Hunibali and then Achiasi to Kede, rebuilt. So you could see there is a lot of work to be done.
How soon do we expect to see that?
You know, rebuilding the rail network is capital intensive. You need a huge amount of money. Government is doing all that it can to get this system rebuilt in stages. First of all, we're looking at the Western Line, which is from Takoradi to Kumasi, with a branch line from Dunkwa to Awaso. That has been slated under the CDB loan facility to be rebuilt. Currently, we've put in place a mechanism to get investors to rebuild the Tema Accra Kumasi route. Currently, we've been able to go through engagement of a transaction advisor. The transaction advisor is going to package the whole corridor and then invite bids for people to rebuild that corridor. We've already negotiated with the transaction advisor, and he will start to work very soon.
I recall that one of the challenges the GRDA had said it was facing was funding, and so it was going to institute a levy rather, so that we could raise some funds. What happened with that?
Well, definitely GRDA is a government institution, and raising or instituting levies has to do with government mechanisms. We tried initially trying to get some funding through the fuel levy, and that couldn't work. We tried through the VAT system, and you are aware of the nature of the VAT rate, so that couldn't also work. But we're looking at so many other options. Hopefully the Railway Development Fund, which is a mandatory fund that has to be established, will start seeking the minister's assistance, which will come through the infrastructure fund that is being established, and that will help build the Railway Development Fund for future development of the railways.
I see. Let's look at the fact that the GRDA is mandated to promote the sector. Are you impressed by the work you have done so far?
Well, impressed in terms of...
Are you happy with the work you have done?
Happy is relative here, because I would have been very happy if we had done more than we've done, but within the context or within the circumstances that we find ourselves, we've done impressively well, because it's an indication of government's commitment to rebuild the network. A lot is being done continuously.
In other words, not much has been done. You probably rate yourself very little.
No, much in terms of things that people will see has not been done. But much in terms of preparations, in terms of efforts being made, is huge.
So what are these efforts that have been made? Because if huge efforts have been made, then some visible things, like you put it, should also be there.
In every project implementation, initially all that is being done is not visible. It's only when the project starts or is completed that people see it. But for sure, for any successful project, the preparation is key. If you don't get it right, the project itself will fail. So that in terms
and so in preparing, for instance, for the other reviving you'd have to do, what have we done as preparation towards reviving the rail sector?
Like I told you, part of the funding that we required for the Western Line was coming from the CDB loan. That was a huge loan that government was able to secure from the Chinese bank, and that is being used for, or is targeted for the Western Line.
Which one are we talking about? Which Chinese bank? The CDB loan?
Yeah. And then on the Eastern Corridor, like I told you, it's a very long process, a painstakingly done process to make sure that we engage a qualified transaction advisor through the World Bank assistance to be able to package the whole corridor, the rail line together with the Buankra dry port as a logistic corridor between Tema and Kumasi. The process has gone up to the stage of engaging a transaction advisor, which has been done now, and the transaction advisor is just about to start work. And we hope it takes maximum 1 year to get work started.
And when did we complete works with this transaction officer?
That was about 2-3 weeks ago.
I see. So it will take a year for us to see any work being done.
For us to see most of the work being done.
Most of the work being done. Yeah. You have mentioned about the fact that you've had funding issues and the fact that a lot of things didn't work for you. How are you tackling the funding issues without necessarily having to rely on a CDB loan we are yet to see?
You know, there are so many options that are available for us to get investment into the railway network or the railway system. We are looking for the best option for the country where we wouldn't invest that much, but we get the benefit of running a system. We're trying to get private investors who will build the rail networks and run them to provide the services and be able to make enough money to pay for the investment that they are undertaking. And that is what is making it slightly difficult and taking so much time. If government had enough money, and government could build the infrastructure, it will be very easy to get the private sector to participate in running the services, because in that case, the cost of investment is so limited. But because of the circumstances in which we found ourselves, we're trying to come out with the best option that will make sure that government does not invest that much, but at least reap the benefits of running a rail system.
At the end of President John Mahama's first year, he had made mention of the fact that it was ready to revive the country's defunct railway system, commencing with the Eastern and Western Corridor lines. Have we had any work done in that regard?
Yes. For instance, the Western Line, we've been able to carve out a portion of the Western Line that was supposed to have been part of the CDB loan to get it moving. We are creating a suburban network between Sekendi, Kojokrom, Takrady. The work has started. Work is ongoing. Almost 30 to 35% work has already been done. So that's part of what we've been doing for the time being. But immediately we get the funding through, the whole network to Kumasi will take off. And like I said, on the Eastern Line, so much has been done, and hopefully work will start very soon.
I see. Let's talk about maintaining our rail line.
Yeah.
How well have we done?
Well, I think we've done not very well, because any system that starts to deteriorate or fall apart has suffered some degree of negligence to some extent, and I believe it has contributed to the state in which we found ourselves. But hopefully with the new system that we've put in place, in those days the operator was the same as the regulator and was the same as the developer. There was so much involved in getting maintenance done, in getting development done, in getting to regulate the system. It was in view of that a new system has been created now, that there is a regulator and a developer, which is the Ghana Railway Development Authority. There's still a company, a railway company in this country, headquartered at Takoradi, and they are now operating the network and maintaining the network. So with this separation, we hope and we believe that maintenance
How
will
often
improve.
is this maintenance done on the rail line?
Maintenance on railway lines are continuous activities that is done on a daily basis. So long as you continue to run trains, you must maintain. But the intensity of maintenance is related to the intensity of trains that are run. The more you run trains, the more you must maintain.
Why then would we have someone with knowledge in the rail system tell us that if we do not suspend, services on the Accra-Tema line, we could be putting ourselves in danger?
Why so?
Let me just reach this then. Chief Engineer of the Ghana Railway Company Limited, William McCann, has called for the immediate suspension of train services on the Accra-Tema railway line until maintenance work is carried out. And he feels this is become necessary because the company cannot guarantee the safety of passengers on that line.
First of all, I think this needs looking into further because the company is the operator of the trains and the company is the one who maintains the lines. So within the company, if there's a chief engineer who is saying this, then that should be an issue within the company. But as far as we are aware, the lines are being maintained. We've been on the line to inspect. They have workers lined up from Accra to Tema, and all those workers belong to the company. So as far as we are concerned, the lines are safe, the passengers are safe, and the lines are being maintained.
Let's wrap up with this one. Now, this Eastern line, at the point the president was assuring that they were ready to start works on the corridors, he made mention of the fact that the Eastern line was going to be critical for the Boankra inland port, so we can do business better with our neighbors in Burkina Faso. How has that worked out so far?
Well, I think I've explained that to you earlier on. That's the line from Tema through Accra to Kumasi.
But have we been able to create that link with the port?
Well, currently we're working together towards the engagement of the transaction advisor because it's been clearly understood that the dry port would not be viable or will not attract the required investment if it is not linked by rail. All these years, that has been the problem with the development of the dry port. So everybody is aware, and the president has stressed on the need to get the rail lines linked to the dry port so as to make the dry port operational. In other words, the dry port is heavily dependent on the rail lines to become operational.
Are we going to see it operational anytime soon?
For sure.
How soon?
Well, like I said, latest in a year's time.
In a year's time?
Latest.
I'm sure.
Not earliest.
Latest.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it again in a year's time. Latest.
Hopefully.
Thank you very much. Alhaji Siddiq is with the Ghana. He's chief executive for the Ghana Railways Development Authority. When I return, we'll do some business here on News Today. Don't go away. Right, so it's time now for some business story. We'll start off with President John Mahama has appealed to the United Kingdom and Switzerland to support government's homegrown initiatives to get Ghana's economy back on track. He made the appeal through the country's heads of mission, who were among 6 new envoys to present their credentials to him at the Flagstaff House. The new Swiss ambassador, Gerard Brugger, was first to present his credentials to the president. Adding business to the fiscal discussion, President Mahama said Ghana's mortgage market is ripe.
Housing is one of the major pressure points that we face. We face a deficit of housing of anything between 500,000 and 1 million housing units. Ghana faces some short-term economic challenges, but we've taken, quite serious steps to try to turn around the deficit, and we're seeing positive signals that the economy is turning around. And so, as one of our critical development partners, we hope that we can work with Switzerland to implement the homegrown fiscal consolidation policy that we have come up with.
Ambassador Brugger, on the other hand, says Switzerland will explore Ghana's business potentials.
In Switzerland, business mainly consists of small and medium-sized enterprise, so there is something we have very much in common with Ghana. We also feel that the development of small and medium-sized enterprises is really a key to progressing economically. And we will do on our end what needs to be done to promote Ghana really as an economical location because of the good governance and a strong legal basis that exists, which is key ingredient for Swiss businesses to come here to invest and to seek partnerships.
Presenting his credence letters, Guinean Ambassador Arafan Kabin Kaba invited the president on a working tour to Guinea. President Mahama shared with him Ghana's ambition to become an electricity generation hub, so it will be in a position to supply its neighbors. The president, whilst receiving the UK High Commissioner John Benjamin, commended his country for its assistance to Ghana.
I cannot talk about our relations with the UK without speaking of the role of DFID and the significance that Sally is a member of your team here this morning, and to continue to commend them for the partnership that we have shared in various sectors of the economy, especially now in respect of public finance management, in respect of payroll strengthening and management and all that. I also mentioned the assistance to the Livelihood Empowerment Against Poverty program. This is a program that is a social protection program that goes to the root of poverty.
John Benjamin told President Mahama they are committed to promoting the private sector.
Our development partnership, where we are keen to work with you on facing the economic challenges which you described, where we are keen to work with the government of Ghana to close the development gap and to promote also the growth of a private sector which can act as a motor of growth and employment in the future. We very much hope that the Atuabo project is given parliamentary approval very shortly, and you mentioned Tullow Oil's involvement, which will be a very long-standing commitment to Ghana.
Rwanda's new ambassador to Ghana, Joseph Habineza, came next. For him, President Mahama was full of praise for what he described as the significant progress the once conflict-ridden country has made. There was also the High Commissioner for New Zealand and Ambassador to Ireland, Sir Lockwood Smith, and that of Venezuela, Alejandro Israel Correa Ortega. Discussions centered on sharing technical knowledge in areas of competitive advantage, especially agriculture. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, public sector workers in the Greater Accra region would by August receive their salaries via the e-switch service. This would constitute the first batch following a successful pilot among staff of the Comptroller and Accountant General's Department for over a year now. According to the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems, the Bank of Ghana's directive for all commercial and rural banks, as well as savings and loans companies, to make e-switch services available at all of their branches by the end of this month, should set the tone for a smooth takeoff. The rollout is expected to cover the other regions by the end of the year.
So Cameroon are out, and a horrible incident there, Asoyokoto and Benjamin, and also that incident with Alexander Song something that I really can't understand why these players would do such a thing. So one African team out, we'll wait to see what will happen to Ghana. There is Ivory Coast playing this afternoon. There is Algeria, which for me, they played very well, so there is hope. And also Nigeria, they drew goalless with Iran. So we'll wait to see what the other 4 African countries can do. But as it stands now, one is out, and that is Cameroon. Well, I'm privileged to have in the studio Coach Eben Sefa. He will help me do some discussions about the World Cup so far. You know, yesterday, the Netherlands, the Spaniards rather, defending champions, were booted out of the tournament after losing their second game to Chile. The first they lost to the Netherlands by 5-1, and the second game yesterday they lost by 2-0 to Chile. A result that I'm not sure you would have predicted.
Well, thank you very much, and I must say that I did predict that Chile were going to beat Spain.
Really?
Yeah, I did so, because I realized that the Spanish team of 2010 is not the Spanish team that we are seeing today. And I think that most of their players are aging, and in terms of speed and pace, they are not there. And you see the Chilean squad, they have the likes of Vargas, who scored the first goal, and then Alexis Sanchez, who plays for Barcelona, and the kind of zeal and the kind of pressure that he gives. There's no way the Spanish are going to go out of it.
You know, in 2008, in 1998, I beg your pardon, when France won the tournament, the next competition was played in Japan, Korea in 2002. They couldn't make it out of the group stages. In 2006, France won the tournament in Germany, went into South Africa. 2010, they couldn't progress to the next stage. Is this something, is it a trend that we are seeing? Because it's like anytime we get a defending champion going to the next competition, they are unable to make it to the next stage.
Well, I think it's been worrying, and I think the Spanish own is the first time a defending champion losing the straight two matches on the trot, and I think that it is something that the countries need to watch out for. It has happened before to France and then to a couple of countries, and I think that it is something that they need to watch. Well, for instance, the Spanish squad that came, you know, they have a couple of Barcelona players in the squad, and you could see the performance of Barcelona in this just ended season with and the performance of Barcelona, and I think that it is something that they need to go back to the drawing board. I don't know whether it's
so. You are also for that argument that anytime the Barcelona team is not playing well, it's literally affects the Spanish team.
Of course, they have more than 5 players in the squad, and if you have a team and about 5 or 6 players are not performing to their peak, definitely you're going to have problems. And the last Confederation Cup, they played the finals against Brazil. You realize that the Brazilians did a lot of pressing. To just send packing the 3 players immediately out of camp.
Yeah, he says he will find out why the player did that. So I'm sure definitely
it's not about finding out.
Some punishments will be
meted out. What I'm saying that for me, I think that they need to be sent packing home to send a signal to the whole world that look, it's not only about Cameroon, it's about Africa.
I'm not sure I'll have you here before we play our next game against Germany on Saturday. Can we make it?
It's possible, because there are a lot of surprises in this particular tournament. And hey, our game against the US, yes, we played very well, but due to lack of technical abilities from our head coach, and I think that the boys are matured, and I think that those players that are on the bench that felt that they were supposed to play before the young ones, and as we speak, I'm sure there's calm in camp, and they've trained together yesterday and today, and I think that if put all things together and we have the right tactics and technical issues, Ghana can go ahead and then defeat the Germans.
Finally, Ivory Coast playing Colombia this afternoon. Can they qualify to the next stage?
It's possible, because you look at the Colombians, apart from Rodriguez, who steps in the shoes of Falcao, who never made it to the tournament due to a knee injury. I think the Ivorians have a very good squad. You know, in their game against Japan, they were in 45 minutes, there wasn't any goal. Droba came in the second half, brought a lot of bite into the attacking, making and Bonnie a lot of options, and then Jevino on the left side of attack. I think that the Ivorians have a lot of chance to go ahead and make Africa proud.
Thank you very much, Coach Eben Sefa. So, Coach Eben Sefa there for you on the news. But, you know, we will monitor the Colombia-Ivory Coast game. There is also Uruguay coming up against England. And later tonight, we've got Japan up against Greece. That's it for your sports. Make sure you stay tuned to the rest of the news with Kemeni. My name is Benedict Owusu, and as always, the sports segment.
Well, season 4 of the Close-Up Salsa Fiesta has been launched with a new twist dubbed the Freshness Dance Revolution. It promises to be very different and more engaging with the inclusion of the popular Ghanaian dances such as Azonto and Al-Qaeda.
The Salsa Fiesta competition was first introduced in 2011, and it has since offered salsa lovers the opportunity to take lessons in the dance and compete with each other for both Salsa King and Salsa Queen titles. This year's competition, which hopes to be more relaxed, will be open to as many young people as possible to generate more fun. According to the organizers, one does not need to be a salsa expert to participate. A series of simple salsa fusion dance moves such as salsa and azonto, salsa and al-Qaeda will be taught through social media, musical programs on TV and on the spot dance lessons. Another exciting twist to this year's edition is the involvement of celebrity salsa performances. Names of such celebrities.
Right, so that's it for News Today. A recap of our top stories. Executive Director for the Alliance for Development attributes Ghana's inability to sustain development to failure by successive governments to deal properly with sanitation issues. The UN peacekeeping. Thank you very much for your company. Find more news on myjoyonline.com. My name is Kemini Inyamani Amana. Goodbye.